And hey, everyone, it's Evan Kirstel. I'm here on a beautiful Friday, and I'm with a really intriguing individual, entrepreneur, founder. What else can I call you, Jared Yellen? You're a man of
Dad,
many
a
accomplishments.
dad to two beautiful children and a husband too.
Well,
Those are my most
yes,
important labels.
yes, I would agree. But really great to have you here. We've been chatting and messaging and texting, and I'm really intrigued by what you're doing around launching 10,000 tech companies over the next 10 years through 10x Incubator. So, why don't you set the scene here? Why don't you give the viewers, the audience here, a little context and background on you and your relatively new mission?
Yeah, for sure. And man, thank you. I love what you stand for. I love what you're doing in the world. I love your track record. You got a big heart. So it's really my honor. I know this is the first of many
Thank
things
you.
that we'll do together. And it's great to be here with everybody. Feel free to connect with me. And I'm happy to answer any questions post this. Just send me messages and we will be in touch. But a little bit about me. I realized early in my life that I was just completely unemployable. So I didn't even try. And I just committed to entrepreneurship. And over the past 16 years, I've had a pretty good run, and I've also had some beautiful learning experiences as well. I'm what you call a non-technical tech founder. So what that means is there's not an engineering bone in my entire body. I know how to write marketing copy, and I know how to sell. 10 years ago, I launched a company called Synduit, and the vision for Synduit was to build the simplest marketing software in the world that was pre-populated with content for every major industry. Kind of like democratize the marketing agency, make it accessible to small business owners inside of a software solution. And that sounded cool in my head. And I was like really inspired by it, Evan. But I had no idea where to begin. And I didn't want to just start throwing money at a concept that felt like really irresponsible. So I figured, let me just buy some time and I'll figure it out. So I launched a marketing agency, the thing that I wanted to democratize. And I sold myself as a copywriter to two pretty high profile people. We did a performance deal and I delivered the goods, and they told everybody about me. And within 14 months, those two clients became almost 400 clients. And we built a really big digital and creative agency for thought leaders. It was an awesome company. We were extremely cash flow positive, big team, big office, living the life. But for me, it was just a means to an end. I really wanted to launch this tech product. And in 2012, I had clarity of what the product would do. So I hired a software development firm based out of Boston, Massachusetts, and they said they could do it. So we got to work. They told me it would take 10 months and $750,000 to build the first version. So I funded it myself. I went all in. And after 10 months, we had our big day. I was excited for this day. And we sat down for the meeting to share what they accomplished, which I expected to be the entire build. And they said, we have some good news. And I'm like, if you have some good news, that means you also have some bad news too. So let's start with the good news. So the good news was what we've built to this point is really stable. So I'm like, that's great. Now what's the some bad news? And the some bad news was we have at least another $1.5 million to finish it. So that was some bad news. And I became what you call a statistic. This is a very common outcome for the non-technical tech founder. Maybe mine was more extreme than yours, but this is a very common outcome when you outsource development. But there was two things that happened in the moment. One was it set me on a mission to make tech safe. I wanted to make it safe for people like me. And the second thing, I had a silver lining moment because one of my engineers at that time, we had 32 engineers. One of them was a gentleman named Mani. And before Mani was working with me, he lived in India. When he was in India, he started his own software development firm out of a little apartment. It was his parents' apartment, actually. And 3 years later, he grew the company from his little apartment to over 100 employees. So outside of being an exceptional engineer, he's also a really good leader and mentor. He ended up selling that company at the end of 2011 to move to the US with his wife to start a family here. And when he moved to the US, he was living on the end of my street where my original office was. So he could be
Wow,
anywhere
serendipity.
but there. Yeah, I mean, literally, he had no money, he had no bike, and he had no car. So if he wasn't living outside my door of my building, we wouldn't literally not have met. Like, there's just no way our paths would have crossed. But this was meant to be. The universe united us. And in 2014, I ended my relationship with that vendor and I asked Mani to become my CTO. And he did. And it gave me the chance to really do Synduit right. And we started building our own team, our own software development team in the US, in Canada, and we hired 12 people in India as well that Mani previously worked with. And if any of you are in tech, and I know, Evan, you're familiar with this, if you can figure out India you're in great shape. It's just very difficult to figure out unless you have money, who hires his friends and his family. So it was awesome. The only downside was they were all contractors, and it's hard to retain contractors anywhere. But in India at that time, it was almost impossible because contractor income is not recognized by banks. So they couldn't get personal loans for houses or cars or really anything for that matter. So I wanted to solve this for me and for them. Like I didn't want to lose them and I wanted to give them a better quality of life. So I set up a company in 2017 that I own in India just to employ these 12 people. And when I got it set up, I'm like, let's try to recruit and see what we can get. And that same month we doubled the team, just easier to recruit employees versus contractors. And that was my catalyst for Synduit. So today, Synduit has well over 40,000 active paying users on the platform across 30 industries. It's a wonderful company. We are truly doing what we set out to do, which is democratize the marketing agency. But the magic of the story happened last year. In April of 2020, I woke up one day, and this is going to be, for all of you out there, entrepreneurs, you're going to appreciate what I'm about to share. So listen tight here. I woke up one day and I realized I'm officially obsolete at Synduit. And as you know, Evan, that should be every entrepreneur's dream. So I was very happy about that. And I issued some meaningful equity to some key people on the team so they can begin to make decisions without me. And for the first time in a decade, I had a completely clean canvas. 35 years old, 2 young children, happily married. Our life is pretty set because of Synduit. And I was thinking to myself, what's next? And I just declared that this next chapter was my moonshot. I was going to do something that would shake up the world, or I would go down trying. And as I was thinking about my moonshot, I felt this calling. And the calling was to do what I just did with Synduit, but 10,000 more times by 2031. And I don't know why it was 10,000, because that's a really big number. 10,000 of anything is a big number, but that's just what it was. And I couldn't ignore the calling. So I made a phone call to Mani, who's still my CTO, and to a woman named Katie, who was my director of operations at Synduit. And I said, I have an idea. I'm going to do it with or without both of you, but I'd much prefer to do it with you. Let's build, scale, and sell 10,000 tech companies in 10 years. Are you in? And their exact words were, we're in because it's you, but we have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. So I said, okay, let me explain. We're going to launch a tech incubator, but this is not going to be like every other incubator or accelerator where we invest a little bit of money and then provide mentorship for 3 to 6 months. Those programs are wonderful. That's just not this. This is a place for people to come with their tech ideas that they write on a napkin, or a tech idea that's in a minimum viable product form, or even a cash flowing tech company that's plateaued. And they're going to pitch us. And when they pitch us, there's 4 major criteria we look for: the right person with the right idea in the right market with the right business model. And if that's all positively validated, we will co-found a company with that person. We'll both take equity in the company so our values are completely aligned. And then we'll build the entire company at cost. Software development, go-to-market, sales, customer support, legal, fundraising, financing, everything it takes to build, scale, and sell a company at cost. And about 98% of the minimum viable product cost is at cost in India in a company that I own. So it's a fraction of what it takes to actually launch a company, which means the risk is very low. So we opened our portfolio in June of 2020. And since then, we've had well over 10,000 people apply to work with us. So heavy on the idea front. About 5% of those people had a chance to pitch us. So a written application to an actual virtual pitch session. And then we've said yes to 107 companies and in our first year, which is more remarkable than hitting 10,000 in 10 years, because we were figuring all of this out. Like, we are not launching products. These are companies. There's no end to this. So the end is when there's an exit. And here's what I want to make sure everybody knows. We are not playing the law of averages. It's not like if we launch enough companies, we're going to get a few winners. Everything we say yes to, we see a clear path to build, scale, and sell. In addition, we're hyper vertically integrated. We launched our own angel investor network called 10X Tech Angels. We have our own crowdfunding platform called Booyah Fund. And we're setting up a $100 million fund as we speak. And we have a really cool initiative. If you have a a young person in your life, whether it's a child or a friend or a cousin, we have an initiative called Young Entrepreneur Movement, which is a curriculum for young people that teaches them how to become tech founders. And at the end of the curriculum, they can pitch us their big tech idea. And if it's the right person with the right idea, we'll say yes. We have had 4 young people succeed with that so far. An 11-year-old, 2 17-year-olds, and a 19-year-old. So it's really cool. But here's the moral of the story. I want to make sure this lands for everybody. When you declare a moonshot, build, scale, sell 10,000 tech companies in 10 years, and then you take what I call maniac action, which means the world thinks you're crazy or onto something. For me, it's a little bit of both. And you talk about it a lot. Like, you don't keep it a secret. There's an outcome, and the outcome is called attention. And we have a lot of attention, attention from Silicon Valley, private equity, family office, big tech. And one of the people that we got the attention of is Grant Cardone. And if you don't know who he is, I'd encourage you to look him up. He's probably—
Who doesn't know who Grant is? Come on now. That's
no, it's funny you say that.
understating.
So, because he isn't in the tech scene. So I would say 1 out of every 10 people that I speak with know him at this point, which is exciting to him. He's like, you're bringing a whole new world into the 10X ecosystem. But Grant Cardone heard about me about 6 months ago, and his exact words were, this dude is crazy or he's onto something. I got to meet him. So he invited me to come out to his office. And when I went out to his office, I wasn't looking to necessarily do anything. Like, I wasn't looking to do a deal. I just wanted to get to know him because I saw pictures with him and his daughter and his daughters, and they have a twinkle in their eye when they're looking at their daddy, and that's special. And I want to know why. And then I see him and his wife, and they seem to have the most wonderful, supportive relationship. And then I know a few people that have worked with him, and they're like, he's just changed my entire life. And that was the Grant that I wanted to meet. So when I went to his office, we ended up speaking, Evan, for probably about 4 hours. It was
wow.
long. And we hit it off. I mean, our values are aligned, force for good. And we were about an hour in. He said to me, Jared, that chair you're sitting in right now, that chair is $100,000 an hour. My sales team sells that chair, and people pay it. And then they come here and they can ask for advice. They can pitch me. And here's what I know is true. You didn't spend $100,000 to sit in that chair because I invited you here. And you're not pitching me anything or asking me for any advice. So I have an ask of you. And he put his hand out and he goes, shake my hand. I want to co-author the story with you to build, scale, and sell 10,000 tech companies in 10 years. And it just made sense. What we've done from an infrastructure perspective to build and scale and sell these tech companies has never been done. And then to attach Grant Cardone's ability to promote and build awareness has never been done. So we then co-founded 10X Incubator. And it's the same thing we were doing before. It just has now Grant involved from a promotional perspective. So one thing, and I want to answer any questions, this is the most rewarding thing I've ever done in my life.
And when you kind of minimize just have Grant Cardone from a promotional perspective, but anyone who follows him on the socials, and I'm a social media fanatic, sees his unbelievable engagement and reach. And, isn't it the case that there are tons of great ideas, tons of great startups, they have even great products and get great teams, but they're lost. They don't get that attention, awareness, buzz, customer credibility. And that's so often the case with early stage companies. They just can't get that, into the stratosphere with their marketing and sales. Isn't that a kind of fundamental piece of what you bring?
Yeah, notice they remain in obscurity, and they become the best kept secret in their space, and then they die. They just die because you can't remain in obscurity and live. Like, no one knows that you exist. So that is like maybe one of the greatest fatal flaws. I mean, finding the right team to support you is everything, because if there's no foundation to build your tech company, then there is no tech company, and there's nothing to go to market with. But there are some people that figure that out, and then they still are in obscurity because they have just not found a way to build press, build awareness, promote. And that's one of the greatest values that we can bring to our founders outside of building their companies, being their go-to-market team, being their biz dev team, doing their customer support, getting them funded, like bringing them international, doing their legal, like we're doing everything in-house.
That's so interesting because, I look at VCs and I know VCs, and they pay lip service to that sort of back office, front office help. But when you really look at what they're doing, they do very little of that nurturing and support and enablement and training and handholding. So you're taking kind of a fresh approach with really equipping and directing and empowering those startups to be successful, it sounds like.
Yeah. So I love that you see this, like, you know your stuff. So I get critiqued a lot for this, like a lot. Like I can't say there's a lot of naysayers.
The
Everyone
haters are going to hate, but
yeah.
yes, yes.
But I believe every one naysayer has 10,000 raving fans attached to it. So I'm just going for more naysayers because I keep getting more raving fans in the process. But I do get critiqued a lot. People are like, oh, you're just doing this because you'll know you get a few winners. And it's everything but that. Like when we say yes, we see a clear path to build, scale, and sell. But here's the reality. In the next 10 years, there will be way more than 10,000 tech companies that are launched, right, Evan? Like way more in the next 10 years, right? So the question is this. If a tech company is on an island by itself versus inside of an ecosystem with 10,000 tech companies, who has a greater chance for success? And the answer is the ecosystem, because there's shared resources, shared relationships, shared awareness. I was on NASDAQ yesterday for a 7-minute interview, and that interview helped every one of our founders. Like every one of them benefited because of that interview. I have meetings next week with a few different billionaires that want to get involved. Like those meetings are not for me. They're for our ecosystem. Like any attention that we can grab and bring to the ecosystem supports every one of our companies versus the individual company on an island trying to do this for themselves. It just doesn't, it's really hard. It's the reason why like 9 out of every 10 tech companies never see the light of day. Whereas we're going to completely invert that. And I'm going to even go bolder and say 100% will succeed. 100% will succeed because we control costs. We keep costs really low and we promote like maniacs. So we bring a ton of attention to every single one of the companies within the ecosystem and on their own when there's a promotional opportunity to do so. So it just increases the chances for success. And I stand firm on that. I stand firm on the fact that these co-founders that we're working with, almost none of them would be doing this if we didn't collide. Most of them are non-technical, not all of them. Most are non-technical. Most have not had their big win yet. We have some very successful co-founders and others that just haven't had that yet. And none of them would try though, because they wouldn't want a story like mine. And my story is a very common story of the pain and suffering associated with trying to bring a tech company to life when you're non-technical. They wouldn't know who to trust. They wouldn't know, even if they could get it built, what to do once it was built. I mean, how many people do you know, Evan, that have built products? They have a solid MVP and they have like 14 users on the platform. Like it's just, that's like the story. And then
it's a sad reality out there. Absolutely. Yeah. So tell me, how can someone listening or viewing who wants to get involved, either a founder, a startup, someone with an idea, or maybe someone who wants to participate in the ecosystem in some way? What's the best next step for them?
I'm going to give you 2 next steps, everybody. Okay. So one next step is if you have an idea, I don't care if it's on a piece of paper. I don't care if you just thought of it because I said something and it triggered it. I don't care if you've invested a little bit of money and you have a minimum viable product and you have product market fit. I don't care if you're a cash flowing tech company and you want to accelerate. Whichever one of those things that you are, head over to 10x. So that's the number 10x Incubator.com and then submit your idea. It's completely free. And it's a written application. Our team will review it. And if we see potential in what you share, we're going to invite you to our daily show. It's called 10x Tech Tank. It's the Shark Tank of early stage tech. It's awesome. It's really exciting. People from around the world are pitching us, and on the spot, we're deciding on whether or not we're going to move into the next phase, which is our due diligence phase. So head to 10xincubator.com and submit your tech idea. Now, if you don't have an idea yet, but you want to be in the ecosystem, head over to 10xtechtank.com. So it's the number 10x tech, TECH, and then tank, TANK.com, and just sign up on that page. It's free. We'll notify you before we go live with each episode. We go live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 5 p.m. Pacific Time. And when you sign up there, we have a really cool gift for you for free. It's called the Perfect Pitch Kit. I've given and received thousands of pitches. So I really know what I'm looking for on the receiving end. And I assembled an entire training for you. It's a 60-minute training with a manual and even the template deck. And you can use this to pitch anything, strategic alliances, investors, anything. And you'll use it to pitch us if you come on the Tech Tank. So head over to 10xtechtank.com. It's completely free, and that'll get you in our ecosystem. And I guarantee you, if that's the path you start down, you're going to eventually submit a tech idea, because I believe everyone's meant to be a tech founder. Everyone. You don't need to be technical to become a tech founder. You just need to have an inefficiency that bothers you enough that makes you the person to actually solve it. And that's all that it takes to become a tech founder.
Well, so exciting, and congratulations on all the success so far, and onwards and upwards to infinity and beyond, as Buzz Lightyear says. So really great chatting look for an update on, in the next 1 or 2 months. And in the meantime, we're both on Twitter, LinkedIn, and catch us there, and Clubhouse, so where I think
Yes,
we
of
met
course.
as well. So thanks so much, Jared, for coming on and chatting, and have a great weekend.
You too. I appreciate you, my friend. Excited about the
Bye-bye.
future. Appreciate you. Goodbye.